Well, good evening, Deb. This is Sean here. I've talked to you through email a few times. We're down here in what I call my sewing lair. We're in my basement, and I have got a couple of machines in various stages of assembly here. Um, but what I'm going to show you today is a 6440 that I've got. This one here has been gone through by a professional shop and is in perfectly fine running order. Um, so we're not going to take it too far apart, but we'll get all the panels off of it and I'll show you some things. We'll go over some tools. I'm going to apologize right now for the crudity of the film. It is unedited, with the exception of being able to hit pause on the camera. Otherwise, I'm just going to upload the raw data, so you get to see my messed up hair and everything. So, hang on here for me. All right, here we are. A couple of tools you're going to need: a small Phillips and a small blade, a medium blade and a medium Phillips, and you might need a large blade screwdriver. Also, for some of the things to take apart, a small blade screwdriver. Needle nose pliers you might need, um, and we'll grab those if we need them. So we're going to take the cover off of it. There's two spring clips on the top. I'm sure you know about that. So we take that off. Now this here is a 6460. Very similar to your 6440. There's a couple of differences, and I'll try to point them out as we go along. So I'm just going to get my foot pedal out of the way. Okay, so in front of the machine here, just what we're looking at, we have got the test material that the shop left in it. If you pull down here, this door opens up. This is the bobbin case, and you squeeze a little black lever here on the side, and you can pull the bobbin case out and change the bobbin thread. It goes in and snaps in place. The little pointer on it goes up. Continuing on the front of the machine, this is thread tension from 0 to 10, and there is a red dot that lines up with a red dot on the case as a recommended starting point, or anything in here is considered for the buttonhole. You'll have to experiment with what's going to work best for your situation, your thread, your fabric. This knob here is a stitch selector knob. We have the buttonhole, excuse me, not a buttonhole. This is the buttonhole setting. This is a zigzag setting. Then we have the colors: blue, yellow, orange or red, and green or purple. Depends on what cams you're using. This knob here adjusts our stitch length. And so this one here adjusts from 0 millimeters up to 6 millimeters in stitch length. When you're at 0, this button doesn't push in. When you're up above 0, this button pushes in. When you push this button in, that puts the stitcher, the needle in reverse. This knob down here is our stitch width. This is a 0 at this point for a straight stitch, and as you crank this up, we go up to a 4 millimeter width. Last but not least, there's this little button down here underneath of your stitch width. This is your feed dog drop button. You push this button in and kind of pull down slightly, and it gets caught and holds down. And what that does is it releases the feed dogs over here, so that no matter what this is set to for stitch length, the feed dogs are out of the way. So you can hand embroider that way. You push in and slightly up, and that comes out, and you can see the fabric moves a little bit. You know, it did on the first one. But anyway, that's what that is. The hand wheel over here, when it runs forward, the top is going towards you, so it pulls down towards you to go in a forward direction. Handle up here will just fold out of the way, and that's it for a tour of this part of the sewing machine. If we turn it just slightly, Down here is our bobbin winder and also our gear selector. When you want to run this in high torque, low speed mode, you pull out on this, and that changes gears so the electric motor continues to run the same speed, but you have twice the power and half the speed at the sewing transmission at the working end of it. You push this in, and it goes back into high speed. If you want to wind a bobbin, that also slides onto this. This is the automatic bobbin winder. When you push this in, it changes a setting to not run the sewing machine, but rather it just spins this with the electric motor. So you can run your thread from your bobbin up on top, through here, around this, and onto your bobbin. If we turn this around further, on the back, obviously, this is where our spools of thread go. There are replacement felts available online. This here is your cam. Now, I know that you found this on yours because when you were looking at your cam stack, you were looking to see whether or not that was cracked. You turn the stitch selector all the way over to the green or purple, and then you can pull this out, and it should just come out. There's 3 little pips on the back of this. Ideally, you don't want any of those broken. I have heard anecdotally from individuals that they will work with 1 or 2 missing, but obviously the more you have, the better, because that is how it holds itself into the machine, and it's the way it's designed to work. You notice this is a cam D. Maybe you can see it in the film, I'm not sure. There are cams A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, and K. Typically, the older machines came with A through F. The newer machines came A through H, and then I, J, and K were available individually or independently. That just rotates into position and snaps in. Over on this side, this is what our presser foot goes up and down with. This is a thread guide. Back here on the back, the presser foot, the presser bar that actually holds the foot, there is a small, and we can point it out later, there is a small notch back here that actually holds the blades. You can cut your thread. So we pull our project out here, and you can take and run it down the presser bar till it falls into that notch and pull straight down, and it will cut the thread for you so you can remove our work piece. If we continue around one more time here, this is down pressure. Again, there's the red dot, and the red dot you can line up. You turn it this direction and there's less pressure on the foot, and you turn it this direction and there is greater pressure on the foot. And again, you'll have to experiment. There are recommended settings in the manuals and in the training guides that have been published in the past. So that's a tour of the outside of the unit. Let's get to taking some things apart. As long as we're on this side, I'm going to use this small screwdriver. Up here in this top corner, if you were to gently pry out, I typically have to get a fingernail behind it. Let's get the fingernail behind it then. There we are. It pulls out slightly and pushes back, and that guide falls off. The stitch guide here has keyhole slots and a little catch here that falls into this screw hole. Don't go turning the screw until you know that you need to adjust it and follow the adjusting directions in the manuals. But that's how that comes off. Pull out slightly on the end and slide to the right. This door over here, this may be different on your model. Underneath of the machine, of the end of the arm, there is a small catch. It's on the back side and hinges near the front side. You can catch it with your finger or maybe at the end of a screwdriver, but it just pulls down. And now this arm is now down here, and we can pull out and up and rock it around slightly, and I promise you it will come off, because I've had mine off several times. And it's going to fight with me. But under here there is one more thing that we can look at. There we go. Have to lift up and kind of rotate from the end clockwise. On the end of the machine, we have a small white knob here. There is a spring inside of this thread catch here. Forgive me for poor terminology, I'm doing the best I can. But there's a small spring in here, and this here adjusts where that spring is. It doesn't change the tension of the spring, but if it's too high up, it doesn't do any good. If it's too low, the spring is closed and you can't get thread into it. So that's what that adjustment is for. As you run the machine, you can see the needle bar go up and down here, and the presser foot is in here as well, the presser bar, and so you can get an idea as to what's going on in there. You can just look at it and explore. So if we look here on the back of the machine, yours may be slightly different, being a 6440 instead of the 6460. This motor cover may be part of the rear cover of the machine. It may not be part of it. Using a small Phillips screwdriver on the bottom of the machine, there are a series of small screws, and you have to remove one under here for this model, and that loosens the end of the cover, the end of the motor cover. And then on the end here, and again this may be different on yours, underneath of this thread guide is another screw. So we take that screw out. And then, using a medium straight blade, there are two screws on either end of the back cover. Now, you may need a fairly thin screwdriver, so I'm going to switch to my smaller one. That screw comes out. This screw comes out. I'm going to unthread my sewing thread here. Get it out of the way. I'm going to run this thread selector in, the stitch selector in, to get that cam out of the way. I've removed all the screws. And let's see if this will come off now. Okay, this end under the motor on this model is caught at the moment, so I'm going to loosen two more of the screws under here, and I'll show you what those two screws hold. You don't have to remove them, but you have to loosen them. And now we can get this to slide over and off, and we've revealed the back of the machine. On here there are these metal springs that hold the top edge in. There's one on this side and there's one on this side. Those help hold the top edge of this cover up against the back of the machine. Quite ingenious, actually, the way they do that. Okay, so with that out of our way, we have we can take off this side cover now. To take off this hand wheel, it pulls straight out. Sometimes these are really stiff. This one here was broken on me, and I put a zip tie around it to hold the plastic together. I opted to not glue it because it was oily and glue wouldn't do any good. So be careful with that. There is a medium Phillips screwdriver head here. Take this one off. Put it aside. You may find different heads on your screws. Okay, this one came off. Now, this particular base has a broken screw boss. And so the screw just happened to fall out, unfortunately. So that comes out of the way. So now we have the drive belt end of the motor, or end of the sewing machine exposed. Now this, unfortunately, is where something's going to get a little different on us. I've raised the presser foot by raising up on this lever. I'm going to drop the feed dogs by pushing down that button. I'm going to open the bobbin case. I've got some extra thread that's just kind of hanging out here. We'll have to address that. On this model, and this is where it may differ, you may have a different stitch plate than I do. There's a black button, black tab sticking out in this corner. You push that tab in, and up pops the stitch plate. The stitch plate just lifts and pulls this direction. There's a little catch for it. These were made quick release because sometimes there is a zigzag slotted needle hole, and sometimes there's a straight stitch needle hole, which is just a single hole through there instead of a slot. So I've got that out of the way. Now I'm going to temporarily put this handle back on the end. Watch yourself. An item of safety concern here, this is a sharp needle, and for anybody else watching, I understand, Deb, you probably understand this, but for anybody else watching, this can hurt you. I do want everyone to be careful, and I don't want anybody to start complaining to me that they've hurt themselves while working on a sewing machine. I am making the assumption here that you understand and know how to handle tools, how to work safely, how to have enough light, how to have, first aid kit at hand. So I want everybody to be careful with this. I'm going to turn this hand wheel with my fingers away because the needle is going to operate. But what I want to do is I want to pull gently here and see if I can get this to come off. And it is not coming out nicely. So I'll have to investigate that further. I'm going to pull the bobbin out. Oh, okay, it's all going to come out with me there. Good. So I got the bobbin case out and that extra piece of thread that was offending me. And I'm going to assume you know how to load that. I'm going to set it aside. All right, there's one more screw to remove. It's a blade screw, and it is on the back side of the presser bar. It's sitting right here. And I may have to, oh, it's going to come out. Okay. Sometimes to remove this screw, I have to use a right angle screwdriver, and I have one on my pocket knife that I actually use. Thank you, Dad, for my Swiss Army knife. Take that screw out, remove it. Okay, now I'm going to close this. I'm going to pull and lift slightly. If you don't drop the feed dogs, you will have trouble getting this arm to come over because it'll get caught on the edge of the feed dogs. You can take this cover off. Now, I will warn you, do not adjust unless you know what you're adjusting. I'm going to turn the machine around forward. There are some set screws on the side, and there are these 3 screws here. Do not remove or adjust these without knowing how to adjust them properly to put them back together. Adjusting this will either wear the machine out prematurely, or it will operate noisily, or it will not catch threads as you are trying to sew. Since I have my thread removed, I'm going to go ahead and take and remove the needle, loosen the needle clamp, and pull the needle downward. I don't know if you're familiar with sewing needles. They are round with a single flat, at least in the 705s. And that flat goes away from you. It goes to the back of the machine. So I removed the sewing needle so this machine's a little safer. Okay, so that's getting into the machine. Now I'm going to pause here and I'm going to don a headlamp. A small LED headlamp is great because you can point light where you want and still have 2 hands free. We will continue this in our next video.